Alright, so yesterday we learned how to put the data into our list, and I actually have to put mine back in there. So when you are putting your data into the list, you always go to Stat, Edit, and I'm going to actually show you. Don't clear it out. You guys should have yours from yesterday. So you have the 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the 683. 652, 948, 1306, 863, and the 901. Okay, and then to find all of the regressions, you're going to go to Stat, arrow over to Calc, and then once you do your quadreg, you go to Calculate, and then you should have your R squared if your diagnostic is turned on. Anytime you reset your calculator, it turns your diagnostic off. So do you guys remember how to check to see if it is turned on? Do you guys remember where to look for that? Yep. Okay, so the diagnostic, you can go to Mode, and then the Stat Diagnostics here. Okay, your Stat Diagnostics should be highlighted to On. Okay, so to turn the diagnostic on, I'm just going to write that, the mode. Okay, so that's what you want to look at. I'm also going to be posting a guide to help you with that. That'll tell you how to turn your diagnostic on. Okay, so let's check our values. For quadreg, did you guys get our area code, the 0.517? And then for this one, we got 0.583. And then the quart reg was 0.892. Okay, so every time you're doing the regression, you find which one you want to use, you go down to calculate, and then it will give you your R squared value. Okay, now the quart reg, 0.892, is the closest value to what? We're always looking for which one is closest to what number? We're always looking for the R squared value that is closest to 1. Okay, so that means we're going to have to do the quartic reg. So will you guys do that on your calculator? The quart reg, because we're going to have to write that down. Okay, so whichever one is closest to 1 is the one that you're going to check. All right, now if you look at your graphing calculator, if it's quart reg, they give you the form of it, right? It's ax to the 4th plus bx cubed plus, and then it goes dot, 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 all the way to e. That's because you are going to be plugging that into this equation. So your equation is y equals 32.229, and then it's x to the 4th, minus, and then we're always rounding to the nearest thousandth, which is 3 places after the decimal. This is going to be x cubed, and then I want you to write the rest out. So use your A, B, and C values to write that out, and then I'll show you how to do your scatter plot. So we're not plugging this in anywhere yet. We're writing this down as our regression equation. Okay, and then for all of them, you're rounding to the 3rd decimal place. Just so you know, this is a very, very long example. They are not always this intense of equations. And anytime it's a negative, you can put that first, the minus first. So it should go from x to the fourth, x cubed, x squared. You have your x. Okay, so this whole thing is your regression equation. Wow. Okay, so this is our regression equation. And pretty much this is the longest one you'll ever see because we're stopping at the court regs. Okay, and then all of those had rounded numbers. Okay, so just to refresh our memories, because we looked at this yesterday, it said to make a scatter plot and curve a best fit. So I'm going to show you how to do that on your graphing calculator. So to make the scatter plot, you are going to go to y equals, and then there is something called plot 1, and to turn it on, you just highlight it, and you press enter. Okay, so for your scatter plot, you're going to go to y equals. You shouldn't have anything in the y equals at this point. You're going to arrow up to plot 1 so that it's blinking here. And then you press enter, that highlights it. Okay, so do that with me. Make sure you press enter and then move the arrow down so that you see that highlight there, okay? Okay, now if you've done that, to see the scatter plot, it's just 2 simple steps. Okay, you don't want to graph it right now because if you graph it right now, you won't be able to see it. But all you have to do is go to zoom and then press number 9. Go to zoom 9. Zoom 9. Okay, so what I did is I highlighted that, right? So it's blinking on it. Press enter. And then just move it down so that you can see it's highlighted. Okay, so you got that? Okay, so then to see the plot, you just have to adjust your window, and that you're just going to hit zoom, the zoom button. Okay, and then you can just hit number 9. This is called zoom stat, and it automatically zooms to your statistics. Okay, so we're going to hit zoom 9. And there it is, all of your data points. Now remember, we're trying to find the line of best fit. So we want to make sure that our line goes through these data points. So I'm going to show you how you can get your calculator to graph that. Okay, so to graph the line, we're going to follow these steps. Okay, so to graph your line, you are going to go to stat. So I try to put the buttons in a button there. So stat, and then we're going to arrow over to calc. So arrow over to the calc. And then whatever you chose, so we chose court reg, we're going to go to court reg. Okay, because court reg was our regression, that was the strongest. Okay, and then don't calculate this, just press enter. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go to store. Once you're in court reg, you're going to go to the spot that says store reg EQ. So this is store your regression equation. So I want you to move your cursor so it's right here. Store regression EQ. Okay? And then just give me a quick thumbs up when you're there, because the next part going to be a lot of buttons. Guys, your eyes should be following along with me. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to hit the VARS button. VARS, V-A-R-S. VARS is variables. Okay, so if you can't find it, it's right here. V-A-R-S, VARS. So click on that. And then see at the top you have this menu. We're going to go to Y-VARS. Okay, so you're going to arrow over to Y-VARS. And then once you do that, you're going to press enter twice. So enter, enter. So once you're here, you're going to press enter because you want a function. You're going to press enter because you want Y1. And this is what you should see. Okay, so again, you're going Y-VARS, enter, enter. You should have Y1 there. Okay, so what you've done is you've stored that equation. Oh, okay, and then once you've done that, you're just going to calculate that. Okay, and like magic, push your Y equals button. What is there? Your equation should be in your Y equals. I know. This is really going to help us with the next part. Okay, so your equation is in Y equals. Okay, and then you can just hit graph to see it. Okay, and then it should curve through most of your points there. Okay, so that is your line of best fit. Okay, and we're going to use that line to predict something. So can you guys go back and read through that story problem and see what they're asking you to predict? Oh. Right, because the word doesn't. Okay, so what are we trying to predict here? Okay, so in the year 2000, okay, and then so in the year 2000, think about what your x value is going to equal. Okay, so this is your last step. So it says, use the regression equation to estimate the value on the first day of trading in 2000. Okay, so when you're estimating in the year 2000, you're going to have to find what your x value should be. So let's look at how we labeled these. So if 1999, the x value is 5, in the year 2000, the x value is going to be 6. So the fastest way to do this and the most accurate way to do this is going to be to use your table. When you use your table, you're going to go to the x value of 6, and we're going to highlight the y coordinate. So I want you to go right on that, the y coordinate. Okay, so we're going to use the table. So I want you to go to your table, and I want you to find the y coordinate at 6. All right, so once you've gone to your table, the reason why you have to highlight it is because you see how your table rounds this? Okay, but we're dealing with the price. The price is money. Okay, money is always rounded to what? The nearest hundredth. So look here at the bottom. When you highlight it, it gives you the full answer. So your final answer is going to be rounded to 2 decimal places because it's money. Okay, so if it's a money, you have to do the 2 decimals. Okay, if it wasn't money, then again, you could just round to the whatever they tell you to. So because it is money, your answer is $2,561.17. This is the most accurate answer that you could have. You could also plug in 6 into this long equation, okay, but that is going to take a little bit longer, and it's not going to be as accurate. Do you guys know why? Won't be as accurate? Mm-hmm. Yeah, all of your numbers here are rounded, right? We put the whole equation into the y equals. Look at all those decimals. Okay, so that's going to give you a more accurate answer. So the $2,561.17. All right, so I'm going to give you a moment to read through B, and once you read through it, I want you to see if you can follow this instruction here to enter this into your calculator. Okay? So I'm going to give you time to do that. You guys can be silent while people are reading and figuring this out. Yeah. Okay, now this one is a little bit different because here the years were the 1994, 95, 96, and when that happens, you let your x value be the number of years since 1994. In this example, okay, you have the year given is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so that's what we're going to use. And so when you guys plug that in, did you just do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over your other ones? And then do you have a hanging one in the bottom? Like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oopsies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then see how this one is there? For that, you can press the delete and it will get rid of it. Okay, and here's another way that you can do it. Do not push delete for this. If you do it, then it's going to delete L2 and it's a pain to get it back. If we get it back. Right there. So for this one, we're going to use the clear button. So I want you to highlight list 2. Well, if you already put yours in, you don't have to. But if you highlight list 2 and then you press clear and then you do enter, it'll clear your list entirely. Okay, so I forgot I didn't show you that yesterday. Sorry. Okay, so you highlight it, you press clear, enter. Again, don't press delete for that because then it will delete the whole column. And a lot of the things we do are based on the L1, L2. Okay, how are we doing at finding the R values? Okay, so when you're doing problems like this, I think you have 2 in your homework tonight. So what I expect you to write down is the R squared values for linreg, quadreg, and quartreg. So step 1 is just plugging them in. You don't have to write anything down for that. Okay, and then if you just want to abbreviate as the lin, the quad, the cube, or the cub, and the quartreg, that is fine. Okay, but I need to see your R squared value for each of those. Okay, so now we're going to do that for each one. Again, we're rounding to the nearest thousandth. And we're going to find each of those, starting with the linreg. Remember, you always use the first line-reg, the AX plus B. And again, you're using the R squared. So we did the line-reg, now we'll do the quad-reg. We got 0.993 rounded to the nearest thousandth. What did you guys get for your cubic regression? 1. Remember, that is the strongest value that you can have. Okay, and then the quart reg is also 1. So I'm going to remind you what we talked about yesterday, something that we wrote down up here. It says if two functions have the same r squared value, we have to check to make sure that a value is not 0. So I'm on the quart reg right now. What's my a value? Uh-oh. What that means is if a is 0, see how it's ax to the 4th? If you do 0 times x to the 4th, that's no longer there. And what type of function is it?
What's the other one?
The cubic. Okay, so the cubic one is going to be the correct one. So a is 0. Okay, we can't have this. Okay, so we can't have, so therefore it's going to be cubic. Okay, so if a is 0, you can't have it, so that means it's going to be a cubic function. Okay, so now we're just going to go back to the cubic function, and we're going to write out our equation. Okay, so this one is so much nicer, isn't it, than the last one? So, okay, so we're going to round to the nearest thousandth place. It says if necessary, and really for this one it's not necessary. You're not going to have all those decimal places like you had before. And then we're still going to do our scatter plot and line of best fit. Okay, so if the decimal is shorter than 3 decimal places, you're just going to have this. Anytime you have the minus, you can put the negative in front. And this is going to go in decreasing order. Okay, so this is your regression equation. Okay, your step 3, there's nothing that you have to show for that. We're just going to graph the scatter plot and the line of best fit. Okay, this is something if you're in chemistry this year, or if you took chemistry last year, you might have done that. I know they did it this year. I think you guys use an app to find like your r squared values. And then remember to graph your scatter plot. All you have to do is make sure your stat plot is on. So if your scat, I'm going to clear out the y equals. And then you go to zoom 9. Zoom 9, there are your new points. Okay, if you didn't clear out the old equation, your equation from the last one will graph there. And then, do you guys want me to walk you through the next part, or do you want to try to do it following the directions to graph the line? Yeah, let's see if you guys can follow the directions to get that, the bars. Let's see if you can graph your line there. Yeah. Right, I'm gonna walk you through it, because you're not showing up.
I told
I'll go over that with you.
All right, so let's make sure you guys know how to get the Y bars. So you're gonna go to stat.
I have a line, I don't have
Okay, now this time, can you guys be quiet so other people can listen? Even if you're done, that's great. Okay, so once you go here, now you're doing cubic regression. So don't go to quartic. You always want to arrow down to where you're storing it. Okay, you go to vars, Y vars, enter, enter, and it stores it there for you. And then you calculate. It should be in the Y equals at that point. Okay, and then you can check that on your graph. Okay, remember that it was 1. If it's 1, it should hit every single point. Okay, our last one was 0.89. That's why it didn't hit every point, because it's just not as strong as this one. So some of you already went ahead, and that's great, and you started to do what they asked you to calculate in step 4. They asked you to estimate the population in the following year, and this just so happens that the following year is going to have the X value of what? 6. So they're not always going to have an X value of 6. This is a fluke. Okay, but the following year is your X value is 6. So one thing you have to understand is what your Y value represents. Before it was the price, so we rounded to the nearest 100. Here it's the population, but it's in thousands. So there's 2 ways that you can write your answer. Okay, so we're going to go to our table. We're going to find where the X value is 6. And because it's population, we're going to be rounding to the nearest whole number here. You can see if you round to the nearest whole number, you have a bunch of zeros there anyway. So that is going to be your best bet. Now you can either write your answer is 9826 in thousands, and you can write the words out. Okay, so you have to make sure you apply it to what's in the table. Or if you want, you could write out what the actual number is. So if that's measured in thousands, you just take that value and you multiply by 1,000. And if you multiply something by 1,000, all that does is add 3 zeros to your answer. So this would be 9826000. And this actually gives you, I think, a better feel for what your population is, right? Because now you can see it's 9,826,000. Okay, so either one of those 2 answers would be correct. Okay, you're going to have to see on your homework what they ask you to do for those. And if you want to do those first, like I said, there's only 2 of them, you can start with those.